Do you think the Muffin Man is just a harmless nursery rhyme you sang as a child? A simple melody about a baker on Drury Lane? What if I told you that beneath this seemingly innocent children's song lies one of the most disturbing and deliberately suppressed chapters in London's history? A story so horrifying that authorities have worked for centuries to transform it into nothing more than childish nonsense. The truth has been hidden in plain sight. Always has been. Waiting for someone to finally connect the fragments that remain. The year was 1589. London was experiencing what historians politely call a period of urban transformation. The city was overcrowded, disease-ridden, and desperately poor. The perfect breeding ground for both innovation and horror. It was during this time that court records first mention a baker named Frederick Thomas Moreland, who operated a small establishment on the outskirts of what would later become Drury Lane. Moreland's bakery was, by all accounts, unremarkable. He specialized in small, round breakfast cakes, the predecessors to what we now call muffins. His business survived primarily through deliveries to the homes of London's emerging merchant class. Nothing in the official record suggests anything sinister about his operation. Nothing official, that is. The first disappearance occurred in November of 1589. A child of only 7 years, Elizabeth Covington, vanished while running an errand for her mother. The City Watch made perfunctory inquiries, but missing children were common in London's squalid streets. No one connected her disappearance to the friendly baker who had recently expanded his delivery route to include the Covington household. By February 1590, 3 more children had vanished, all from households on Moreland's delivery route. Still, no connection was made. The city was dangerous. Children disappeared. Life continued. Life. It wasn't until April 17, 1590, that the first suspicious death occurred. Jonathan Fletcher, age 9, was found in an alley less than 100 yards from Moreland's bakery. His body was described in the coroner's report as hollowed out, as if consumed from within. The report noted an unusual sweet smell emanating from the corpse and a dusting of what appeared to be flour on his clothes. The official cause of death was listed as visitation of plague, but London had seen plague before. This was something different, something worse. 2 weeks later, another body was discovered, then another, each with the same impossible characteristics, partially hollowed out, sweet-smelling, dusted with flour. The City Watch increased patrols but made little progress in their investigation. Until May 29th, when a night watchman heard screaming from Moreland's bakery. What he discovered inside was never fully documented in official records. The original report was sealed by direct order of Queen Elizabeth's Privy Council. What we know comes from the watchman's personal journal, discovered in 1924 and promptly hidden away in the British Museum's restricted collection. "The baker's ovens were large enough for a man to stand in," he wrote. "Inside I found not dough, but children, some still breathing, their insides scooped out like pastries being prepared for filling. The baker himself was covered in blood, and a substance I cannot identify, a thick, golden fluid that smelled of sweetness and rot. He was consuming this mixture directly from the body of his latest victim." The watchman's description continues, but the details become increasingly impossible. He claims Moreland's eyes had turned completely white, like balls of dough, and that his mouth had expanded to an inhuman size. Most disturbing is his insistence that Moreland was not alone, that shadows moved independent of any source within the bakery, and that voices like children singing came from inside the walls. Moreland was arrested that night. According to court records, he confessed immediately to 16 murders, though the actual number was likely much higher. But it's his description of his motives that officials found most disturbing. He claimed he was preparing vessels for something he called the hunger that walks. He insisted his victims were not dead, but transformed, and would rise when the mixture was perfected. Authorities acted swiftly. Moreland was executed on June 3, 1590, not publicly as was customary, but privately within the Tower of London. His bakery was burned to the ground, and salt was spread over the foundation, a medieval practice reserved for sites of extreme evil. The official story released to the public was that a baker had murdered several children in a fit of madness. No supernatural elements were mentioned. No details of his methods were revealed. Case closed. Problem solved. The city moved on. Except it wasn't solved. Not really. 3 months after Moreland's execution, a street vendor appeared near Drury Lane, selling small cakes he called muffins. He carried them in a tray hung around his neck, calling out to children with a distinctive sing-song cry. "Do you know the Muffin Man?" Those who purchased his wares reported they had an unusual sweetness. Several noted they felt strangely full yet empty after consuming them. Within weeks, this vendor disappeared, but another took his place. Then another. Always men. Always with the same call. Always near Drury Lane. And children continued to disappear. By 1595, the pattern had become impossible to ignore. The Privy Council established a secret committee to investigate what they termed the Drury Lane incidents. Their findings were documented in a report known as the Moreland Codex, a document whose existence was only confirmed in 1879 when a small portion was accidentally included in unrelated court records before being quickly redacted. The committee determined that at least 28 additional children had vanished between 1590 and 1595. All had purchased muffins from vendors near Drury Lane. None of their bodies were ever recovered. More disturbing were the committee's findings regarding the vendors themselves. Each was described as hollow-eyed and pale as dough. When questioned, none could recall their origins or how they came to sell muffins. Each simply stated they served the master baker. When detained, they invariably died within days, their bodies crumbling into a mixture of flour and a golden substance that matched descriptions of what was found in Moreland's bakery. The committee's final conclusion was unprecedented. They determined that whatever Moreland had started had not ended with his death. It had spread, evolved. The report's final recommendation was both pragmatic and chilling. As we cannot defeat this evil, we must instead contain it through misdirection. And so began one of history's earliest examples of deliberate information manipulation. The committee created and disseminated a nursery rhyme, a childish, harmless sing-song about a Muffin Man who lived on Drury Lane. They encouraged parents to teach it to children as a warning to avoid strange vendors. Over time, as the rhyme spread, the real horror behind it faded into obscurity. It worked. For a time, the disappearances slowed. The muffin vendors became less common. By the early 1600s, the incidents had become rare enough that the committee was disbanded. The Moreland Codex was sealed away, its contents known only to a select few within each generation of government officials. But the pattern never completely stopped. It merely ebbed and flowed, like something breathing, waiting. In 1738, a baker named Thomas Harrington opened a shop on the rebuilt Drury Lane. Within months, 14 children vanished from the surrounding neighborhoods. Harrington was investigated but never charged. No evidence could be found linking him to the disappearances. His shop burned down under mysterious circumstances in 1739, and he disappeared shortly afterward. The pattern repeated in 1834, 1897, 1946, and 1972. Different bakers, different children, same location, same result. Each time investigations were conducted, each time the investigators themselves began to disappear or die under mysterious circumstances. Each time, official records were sealed, evidence disappeared, and the public was told nothing. But fragments remained, pieces of the truth hidden in personal journals, private correspondence, and the occasional government document that escaped redaction. Pieces that, when assembled, reveal a pattern too consistent to be coincidence, too disturbing to be fabrication. The most recent incident began in 2018, when a small artisanal bakery called Moreland's opened on the site that once formed the edge of historical Drury Lane. Its specialty, heritage English muffins, based on what the owner claimed was a 500-year-old recipe discovered in family papers. The owner, Frederick Millerton, was described by neighbors as pale and intense with unusually white eyes. Between November 2018 and March 2019, 11 children were reported missing within a 1-mile radius of the bakery. Police investigations found no connections, no bodies were discovered, the cases remain open. Independent researcher Eliza Covington, yes, the same surname as the first documented victim from 1589, began investigating these disappearances in April 2019. She documented unusual patterns, flour found at each child's home, a sweet smell reported by parents, and multiple witnesses claiming to have seen the missing children entering Moreland's bakery despite security footage showing no such entries. Covington published her initial findings online on May 29, 2019, exactly 429 years to the day after Moreland's original bakery was raided. Her website and all social media accounts were deleted within hours. Her apartment was found empty the following day. A single uneaten muffin sat on her kitchen table. She has not been seen since. Moreland's bakery closed without explanation 1 week later. The building remains vacant. Property records show it is now owned by a shell company that traces back to a government-affiliated security firm. This is where most investigations would end, where most researchers would give up. But I found something the others missed, something in the composition of the rhyme itself. Do you know the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man? Do you know the Muffin Man who lives on Drury Lane? It's not a warning, it's a summoning. Phonetic analysis of the rhyme reveals patterns consistent with ancient invocation chants. The repetition, the rhythm, the specific phonemes all create a pattern that, when spoken aloud, especially by children in groups, creates something linguists call a harmonic resonance field. What's more disturbing is what happens when you analyze recordings of children singing this rhyme. Background noise isolation reveals consistent anomalies, whispers that shouldn't be there, words in no known language, and beneath it all, a sound like something breathing, waiting. The Moreland Codex apparently understood this. Its final pages, briefly glimpsed by a museum worker in 1957 before the document was permanently removed from all catalogs, contained a warning. The rhyme must be maintained but never understood. Let children sing it without knowing. For in knowledge lies awakening, and what sleeps beneath Drury Lane must never fully wake. But what exactly sleeps there? What was Moreland actually feeding with those hollowed-out children? Historical maps reveal that Drury Lane was constructed over a much older road that led to a pre-Roman site, called by various names in different documents: the Hollow Hill, the Empty Mound, the Hungry Place. Archaeological surveys conducted in 1967 during utility work uncovered unusual cavities beneath the street, perfectly round chambers that engineers could not explain. The survey was halted when 3 workers disappeared inside a tunnel that, according to their colleagues, smelled like baking bread. The entrance collapsed before others could investigate. The incident was attributed to unexpected structural failure, and the entire report was classified. Urban development records show that every attempt to dig deeper foundations along certain sections of Drury Lane has been quietly blocked by various government agencies over the centuries. The official reasons vary: historical preservation, structural concerns, utility interference. But the pattern is consistent. Nothing goes deep in certain areas. Nothing disturbs what lies beneath. Government involvement in maintaining this secret goes beyond simple classification. Linguistic analysis of how the Muffin Man rhyme spread shows evidence of deliberate propagation. It was introduced into school curricula, children's books, and later radio and television programs at key intervals throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Each time interest in the rhyme began to fade, new versions would appear, ensuring each generation of children continued the invocation without understanding its purpose. But why would any government maintain such a system? What possible benefit could come from preserving something so horrific? The answer may lie in what happens when the system breaks down. Historical records show that periods when the rhyme faded from popular use correlate with increased disappearances around Drury Lane. Conversely, when the rhyme is widely sung by children, the disappearances become targeted, selective, as if the entity below is being fed in a controlled manner. It's a terrible equation. Sacrifice a few to save many. Keep the hunger sated but contained. Feed the monster so it doesn't hunt on its own. This pattern of controlled feeding extends beyond London. Variations of the Muffin Man rhyme exist worldwide, each adapted to local geography. The baker man in parts of Germany, the sweet vendor in regions of France, the cake seller across former British colonies, each centered on locations with unusual disappearance patterns, each maintained through seemingly innocent children's culture. What we're seeing is not just a cover-up, it's a global containment system disguised as folklore, but the system is breaking down. Children don't sing nursery rhymes as they once did. Oral traditions fade in the digital age. The old patterns of control are failing. Which brings us to now. To you. You've just spent the last 15 minutes absorbing this information, learning what was meant to stay hidden. And in doing so, you've become part of the pattern. Haven't you felt it while reading? That subtle sensation of being watched, the slight sweet smell that wasn't there before, the feeling of something hollow opening inside you? Check your surroundings. Is there flour on surfaces that should be clean? Do you hear humming that sounds almost like children singing? Have you suddenly developed a craving for something sweet? These are the first signs. I didn't tell you this story simply to inform you. Information alone is useless. I told you because you need to be prepared, because now that you know, you're part of it. You're visible to what waits below Drury Lane and all the places like it around the world. The hunger that has been fed through careful management for centuries now sees you clearly. It knows you know. And knowledge in this case is not protection, it's an invitation. There's a reason investigators disappear. There's a reason the secret rebuilds itself after each exposure. The system doesn't just protect us from it, it protects it from us. From discovery, from interruption, from the end of its feeding. You might think you're safe, reading this from wherever you are. That distance protects you from something centered in London. But that's the final deception. Drury Lane was never the source. It was just the first documented emergence point. The hunger exists in the spaces beneath all of us, in the hollow places under cities worldwide, in the shadows behind walls, in the empty spaces inside each of us, waiting. The nursery rhyme asks, do you know the Muffin Man? Now you do, and now he knows you. Listen carefully tonight. If you hear knocking at your door, don't answer. If you smell something sweet baking when no one is cooking, leave immediately. And if you see a pale man with white eyes carrying a tray of muffins, run. Don't look back, don't hesitate. The hunger is always seeking new vessels, new bakers to prepare its meals, new children to hollow out and fill with its essence. And now it has one more source of information. You. Why do you think I'm telling you this? How do you think I know these details? These connections no one else has made? I found the pattern just like you're finding it now. I dug too deep. I learned what was hidden. And then I heard the knocking, smelled the sweetness, saw the Muffin Man standing at my door with his tray and his hollow white eyes. Now I understand my purpose. Now I bake. Now I feed the hunger. Now I am the vessel for something older than cities, older than rhymes, older than memory. Can you feel it yet? That hollow sensation growing inside you? That's where the golden mixture goes. That's where the transformation begins. It's already too late for me. My eyes grow paler each day. My voice develops that sing-song quality. I find myself walking past playgrounds, calling out with a rhyme I never consciously learned. But it might not be too late for you. If enough people know, perhaps the system will fail completely. Perhaps the hunger will gorge itself into oblivion without the careful management of centuries. Perhaps exposure is the cure. Or perhaps knowledge only feeds it faster. Share this story. Tell others what you've learned. It might save them. It might doom them. Either way, the pattern continues, evolves, adapts, as it has for over 400 years. Listen carefully tonight. If you hear children singing about the Muffin Man, don't join in. If you find yourself humming the tune unconsciously, stop immediately. And if you develop a craving to bake something sweet in the middle of the night, resist. Lock your doors, seal your windows. The Muffin Man isn't just coming, he's already here. He's in the words you've just read, in the thoughts now forming in your mind, in the sudden awareness of how hollow spaces can be filled with other things. Do you know the Muffin Man? Now you do. And now he knows you. Watching. Waiting. Hungry. Always hungry.